Live episode of Content in Commerce on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Riverside, and who knows what we're going to do next. Today I have Isaac, excuse me, and myself. David is off gallivanting. He is Spanish, so he's probably Don Quixoteing. Can I say that? And actually, I'm wearing my Don Quixote shirt from Japan, so that's very practical that we're doing that right now. Isaac, go ahead, start us off. Tell us what we're going to be talking about today.
So we're going to talk about the end of the Google search monopoly and really two aspects of that. One, how LLMs are changing the Google search monopoly, and two, how social media search trends are disrupting the Google search monopoly.
I mean, this is like such a relevant topic right now, especially as Google. We can see as we're going through, and you're literally Googling, that Google is changing the way it's presenting to people what it looks like. And I think now we have Perplexity and ChatGPT and Claude, and that people are slowly moving, right? And so it could give us the premise of where we're coming from.
Yeah, well, one of the most important drivers of this trend is obviously LLMs becoming more and more popular. And I think it's fair to say that probably most people out there watching this have, at least on occasion, tried searching things with ChatGPT instead of Google. And this can vary just depending on like the use case. So for example, if I want to find a very specific article that I read and want to read again, I'll probably search like the title and like the publication name on Google. But if I want to get a recommendation for what new pair of shoes I should get, then I'm more likely to go into ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm looking to run a marathon. I have X, Y, and Z issues with my feet or my knees, or I'm looking to do this in cold weather or in wet weather, and ChatGPT can kind of synthesize all these different things I've taken and give me an up-to-date recommendation. So depending on the use case, people are finding more and more that LLMs might be a better place to search for what you're looking for than Google.
Yeah. I'm going to play devil's advocate because you just taking your examples there, I think that it gives you an answer. It doesn't give you a thousand choices, right? Maybe that's one of the differences. And the answer may be right or wrong, but it does give you an answer. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like Costco compared to Target or something, where you have 100 different things you can choose from versus one thing you can choose from.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll continue on your devil's advocate trend here that sometimes LLMs are wrong, or they don't weigh the context correctly, or they are out of date in terms of what they pull from, and you have less recourse there. So there are definitely some issues with using LLMs that I would definitely caution like any content cucumber writer or any content writer watching this to be aware of when using it. But that doesn't change the underlying trend that, for better or worse, more and more people are choosing to use LLMs in more and more use cases instead of Google. And that's a trend that I think marketers need to be aware of and respond to.
Yeah, so kind of going in through there, then we need to be aware of other things besides SEO. So, we went over this the last couple of weeks. So there's AEO, GEO. Like, why then? Where would marketers need to do? What should they do first to kind of grab some of that low hanging fruit?
Yes, so in addition to SEO, we need to be paying attention to AIO, or as it's sometimes called AEO or GEO. AIO is the term that I like the most, but just like SEO is optimizing for search engines, AIO means optimizing for AI. Now, here's an important thing to note. These are pretty similar. There's a lot of underlying, tactics and strategies that you can put in as a marketer that are going to help with both. Producing lots of high quality, up-to-date content is going to help you with your search engine optimization, and it's going to help you with AI optimization. On top of that, AI engines pull disproportionately from social media, and they really care, even more than search engines, that your site is fast and optimized. So those are two elements of AIO to pay extra attention to, is your social media presence and your site performance.
I've read recently that maybe they're looking less at places like Reddit and more at more I don't know if you call it verified, but I think the trend is going to go right, and there's going to be trends going different ways, and just like the generative part of the ChatGPT has really grown and gotten better over time. I feel like the search aspect is going to have to get better. And the one thing that you kind of alluded to was that if you want to find something that's happening today, if you search for it, you're not going to find it on ChatGPT, right? There is like a memory or a history of when the last time it scraped. Um, so I think that's one thing that we have to get past still, is maybe just absolute relevant, and is it going to go and search for some of the latest news things, right?
Yeah, two points there to respond to. So as far as Reddit, that is a great point, because for a while it was pulling so heavily from Reddit that everyone was like, make Reddit content, like Reddit should be your number one focus. Reddit is going to determine everything. And then for whatever set of reasons, whether they're like, semi-political or maybe logistical or whatever, but they didn't want to give Reddit that much power and that much influence, and so they changed the algorithm so that now Reddit is not as heavily impactful. And I think since we're in kind of the early days of these LLMs, relatively speaking, you're going to see more trends come and go. But social media definitely does play an outsized role, and it's definitely something to pay attention to for another reason that I want to make sure we get into today, that also plays into the, kind of the end of the search monopoly that Google has, that we're talking about today. But then real quickly, before we get to that, one other thing you brought up that I want to address is the up-to-date nature of Google versus ChatGPT. And obviously LLMs like ChatGPT have a memory bank that has a certain cutoff date, but then they do also have the ability to search the live web. So there's a little bit of a gray area there. You can get it to pull up information about current day events, but there's potential for stuff to get lost. And that's definitely another shortcoming that anyone who's searching with them or writing with them or using them as a tool should be aware of.
Let's close this part of the subject off on that search for today. And I guess I haven't tried it with ChatGPT. Maybe Perplexity does it a little bit better. And then I think that just what you talked about with Reddit, it does show that there are some people that are pulling levers that can determine what we're seeing, right? And I don't know. My opinion on Google is maybe they're not. The algorithm is pretty open, and maybe it chose Reddit because of the way it's structured, not because it's Reddit.
Yeah, I mean, this is just kind of getting into some conjecture, and I would agree that I think LLMs are more of a black box than Google. With Google, you can see lots of different sources, at least. Like, obviously, the algorithm is choosing who those sources are, but it's easier to peruse and find different takes on the same issue compared to ChatGPT. And humans have a little bit of this automation bias where we kind of just want to assume that, like, oh, ChatGPT said that this is the right answer, so that must be the case. But that can easily be changed by the prompts that you give it and by the stuff that's being edited on the back end, like using or not using Reddit as a big source.
Yeah, so let's move. What's the next subject we're covering today?
So the other element of Google's search monopoly being on the decline is actually not directly related to GPT and all of these things. Instead, it's more of a consumer behavior trend, which is that people more and more are using social media networks as search engines of their own. And one of the biggest ones in that respect is TikTok. I know on my end, I like to cook, and when I search for recipes on Google, you might get like, 8 paragraphs of someone's life story mixed in with like ads and video that auto plays, and then like the recipe is written like down below with maybe a picture awkwardly mixed in. Compared to if you search it on TikTok, they'll have like this 2-minute edit of really fast, like snappy, here's each and every step, and not only what the ingredients and preparation steps are, but also like here's what it looks like, and you can see how finely they're dicing things, or like how it all looks in the skillet together. And I think like for a lot of pragmatic reasons, it just works out better independently of the platform. And that brings people to like choose to search for those things on TikTok instead of Google. And the same concept could apply to like, interior design on Pinterest, longer form stuff on YouTube, like music lessons and so on. So I think this is another trend we're seeing, that people are using social instead of Google. And so in that sense also, you can't just rely on Google being the 95% of searches the way it was in the past.
Okay, I'm going to play my devil's advocate on that as well, because I think when Google first started, that it was just a box that didn't have ads or anything. It was just this box that returned results, and there wasn't all this garbage that we see nowadays. And I think actually recipes are such a great example. People are trying to get their recipes, and they're doing that engagement. They're trying to get people to stay on their site longer, so they make you go lower. Then they want to make some money, so they put an ad, and there's like sometimes there's a floating video that's just a commercial that you can't get rid of, or it just pops back up right when you're trying to do something. Like, that is so annoying. But I think it got there because of all the things that people needed to do to either make a living, or what Google wanted to do to get revenue, right? And maybe now is kind of that magic time where we have an opportunity to explore some of these areas like TikTok or even Instagram, where we don't have all these annoying injections of other things that are distracting, but are maybe a byproduct of why that exists. Like, why is the recipe so long? Why do we have to read their entire life story for everybody's recipe? And then why do we have a floating video about a solo fire pit when I'm trying to cook my eggs? So I think that maybe we're at this beginning. We are at the beginning stage of LLMs. We don't have inline ads, which I think is the next thing we're going to see is inline ads within our own LLMs. So we're going to go to ChatGPT, and you're going to get a free version of ChatGPT, and that free version's going to include an ad that's always there, and it's rotating. And I can already see it on how it's going to look on the interface. It's going to be super annoying. So maybe we can kind of close things out with where do we think these trends are going? Where is the short form video that is replacing recipes going? Is it going to be are platforms then going to emerge that continue this idea of not so much garbage on a page?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of disruption going on, as there always is really in the digital world, but maybe now a little more than normal with LLMs and with these changes in social media use. And I think they all have downsides of their own. Like you mentioned, the incentives of a website needing to have ads to make revenue and pay the people creating that content. Well, TikTok obviously has its own whole set of perverse incentives, and there's pros and cons to all of it. But I think as things get shaken up, it's a good opportunity for people who want to get their name out there, because traffic is moving around. People are trying different sites and different platforms to find their information. So if you diversify and make content for lots of different platforms, you have a good chance of showing up and changing your position and things among the chaos. Maybe you were ranking medium in Google, but you're able to jump in and rank really well on TikTok by speaking to your niche through video or so on. So I think when there's a lot of disruption and chaos, there's also a lot of opportunity, and that's the message I would say. Somewhat biased as like a content creator, as you know, the chief editor of a content agency, but I would say like this is a good sign that you should go out there and create lots of content on lots of platforms, maybe with the Content Cucumber flywheel plan, or maybe by your own creativity and volition. Like that's definitely where I'm putting my eggs, the basket I'm putting my eggs in, and what I'd recommend.
All right, yeah, I love the shameless plug. So, I think I'm going to make a commitment to a recipe, and I've been making this Kahlua pork recipe in my instant pot, and I think I've perfected it. And now I really want to I'm going to make that 2-minute video. So basically, I take like 4 pounds of pork shoulder, and I inject all kinds of cloves of garlic into it. It is so good. Threw a couple onions on the bottom, and I wrapped it in bacon, and then I cooked it in my instant pot for 90 minutes, which is an unheard of amount of time. But oh my gosh, it is so good. So maybe that's my challenge, my short form challenge, is to make this video about my recipe for Kahlua pork in an instant pot.
Yeah, go for it. I'll definitely I'll give it a shot.
All right, so we're back in 2 weeks. It's actually, we're not back in 2 weeks because you and I are both at the Tree Conference, the running event, the largest running event in the world. But I think we'll be back then the week after, perhaps, for a live episode of Content in Commerce.
Sounds great.
Have a great day, everybody.